We have partnered with a world-renowned RF designer. They have looked at our network, they've looked at what's the most efficient placement and the best location for these towers. The design that we have is so solid.
Being able to place your network where you have designed your network means that the customer will have faster data. The customer will communicate better, which is ultimately what the goal should be.
We are ready. Turn us on.
The F&M leader says he feels vindicated by Greg Moss's resignation. This as Moss says he's not interested in joining the F&M. Still no word on how much it will cost to rebuild that burned down Banzi door. Plus reported incidents of child abuse on the rise. We've got those stories and more coming up tonight. I'm Dana Smith, and MB12 starts right now. Tonight, Free National Movement leader Dr. Hubert Minnis says he feels vindicated by Marco City MP Greg Moss's resignation from the Progressive Liberal Party, saying he foreshadowed an exodus of PLP members months ago. Minnis also said while he hasn't invited Moss to join the F&M, the party has opened doors. Paige McCartney reports.
Calling Greg Moss's resignation from the Progressive Liberal Party honorable, Free National Movement and opposition leader Dr. Hubert Minnis says no one in his camp has ever reached out to the young politician, although Moss has said that he's not interested in joining the F&M. Minnis added that if he is interested at any point in time, he can apply. Minnis said the resignation should be proof that the PLP is losing ground among its own supporters. PLP Chairman Bradley Roberts has brushed off Moss's departure, claiming the Marco City MP stood zero chance of securing a nomination for the upcoming 2017 general election anyway. But Minnis said this and other scandals, coupled with the implementation of bad policy, is causing a meltdown within the party.
The people have lost trust in the PLP. And he has expressed his disappointment that he, like me, like many, don't believe that they truly believe in Bahamians. They are throwing slogans left, right, and center. And it was honorable of him to live with his conscience and to do what he thought was correct.
In April, Minnis claimed at an F&M press conference that he was reliably informed that at least 5 PLP members had sent resignation letters to the Prime Minister and that the Prime Minister rejected them. Minnis said he doesn't believe Moss will be the only member to exit the party.
Well, not only that, but when I made that statement, you would remember that within 2 weeks it came to light that Damien Gomez had issued a resignation letter to the Prime Minister, which was not accepted. So, and I said that there were more to come. Obviously, that in itself shows that there's some instability or unrest within the PLP. As for Greg Moss resigning, I respect him for doing what he thought was correct. He recognized that under the PLP, many of the promises that they made, they have not kept.
Moss has said that he's suspicious of the fluidity of movement of members between the PLP and F&M and doesn't subscribe to that philosophy. While Minnis has not indicated an interest in recruiting Moss or any of the discontented new generation PLPs, he said the F&M's doors are open.
No, we have not reached out to any of them. I've always said that our party, it's a political organization, and anybody can apply to come and join the organization. There's a process. It's just not me. There's a process that one has to go through. And anyone who applies at that level or even below and want to come into the organization, then they would go through that process.
Minnis said he has heard word of the PLP planning a rally to galvanize supporters in the wake of Moss's resignation, but he said there's little the PLP can do to convince him that the party is stable. Reporting for MB12, I'm Paige McCartney.
Well, Moss told us yesterday that he intends to remain in politics, but he's not interested in joining the FNM because he considers that party and the PLP to be pretty much the same.
I see the FNM as being a business party. I don't have any issue with a business party. It's just not what I represent. I see the PLP's stated ideology as being a people's party, and that's fine. It's just that they don't live up to their stated ideology. And so I will not transition between an FNM and a PLP and an FNM. That would be too fluid and too inconsistent. And it certainly would not represent a platform in which I believe I can achieve or help to achieve what I'm trying to achieve, which is the upliftment of the people, not of the businesses. And so that won't happen.
As for possibly joining the Democratic National Alliance, Moss said he's not impressed by the party's leadership.
I have great respect for the DNA. I, however, do not share that same affinity with the leadership of the DNA, and particularly with the leader of the DNA. I still look to leadership for vision, and for them to display that vision through what they project. And when you look at the DNA's campaign from 2012, it was a one-man campaign. We have had enough of egomaniacs in leadership positions in politics. We've had enough of that.
When asked if he intends to form his own political party, Moss would not answer directly. He said he will listen to the voice of the people.
I grew up in the biggest ghetto in Freeport. I've told people about that. My mother was a maid. We grew up hard. I mean, we spent years going in the back of the food store for food and garbage for food and so on. And that may sound like a negative, but that's very positive, because if you can come to an understanding of who you are before you have some marks of success, then success will not change you. And that understanding is not a grandiose sense of yourself. That understanding is the commonality that you share with everyone else, that you're just a person among persons trying to do your part.
Government still isn't sure how much it will cost to rebuild the burnt male dorm at BAMSI. That's according to State Minister for Works Arnold Forbes. His comment came immediately after Minister Works Philip Davis revealed in the House of Assembly that the embattled contractor who built the dorm would not be the same one to rebuild it. Kyle Joaquin has the details.
The fact that they would even consider awarding the contract to replace the building to the same contractor raises more than eyebrows.
It was that statement by Montague MP Richard Lightbourne that sparked a heated back and forth between he and Deputy Prime Minister Philip Davis. Since the male dorm at the Bahamas Agriculture and Marine Science Institute was set afire back in January, there has been constant debate over why the dorm was never insured and who would rebuild it. Contractor Audley Hanna previously said he doesn't have the millions it would take to rebuild the dorm, but that he would have to find it. But Davis says it seems as though most people are only concerned about the insurance and the contractor, but not the criminal act of arson.
They have not even considered who it was, who was the culprit behind it. They're not addressing that, you know. Maybe the inquiring public will want to know, and maybe the leader of the opposition could tell them.
Dave Dion Moxey has already been charged with arson in relation to that fire. Agriculture Minister Vialfred Gray previously told our news team he understands it was over money and he wished the disgruntled employee would have come to him if he had not been paid. But Lightbourne still had the question, would the same contractor that built the male dorm at BAMSI be the one hired to rebuild it?
Are we going to oblige us, or, I mean, you offered.
If the members are obliged.
You didn't offer it.
Whether I gave the contract to the same contractor, you could ask that question. And the answer to that question is no.
But Davis wasn't the only cabinet minister Lightbourne got into it with.
That's not true. I don't know if it is true. If it is true, no, please. You sitting down? If you have something to say, stand up. Numbers. That's not what he said. Numbers. I didn't listen to him. That's not what he said. He said that side had signs up calling for the resignation of the Minister of National Security. That's not true.
That was National Security Minister Dr. Bernard Nottage denying that while in opposition, the PLP called for the resignation of then Minister of National Security Tommy Turnquest. However, PLP Chairman Bradley Roberts repeatedly called for Turnquest's resignation around the time the PLP highlighted the number of murders under the FNM. Then there was this claim from Nottage that there are fewer murders so far this year than there were on this date in 2011 under the FNM.
Just for the record, the murder rate today is no worse, in fact, less than it was in 2011. their last year in office. That's point number one. Point number two, serious crimes and not so serious crimes are all down, except, Mr. Speaker, for the number of murders.
But according to Nassau Guardian records, so far this year there have been 68 murders, and at the same point in 2011, there were 58, 10 less. Now, as for when we could see the reconstruction of the burnt male dorm at BAMSI, there is still no projected timeline. Now, at the moment, State Minister for Works Arnold Forbes says there is no figure as to exactly how much it will cost to rebuild that male dorm at BAMSI. But in terms of who will rebuild it, Forbes says that decision will be made within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Reporting from the House of Assembly for NB12, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Family members of the 36-year-old man who was gunned down outside of his Peach Street home last Monday say they want justice. Relatives say although it's been 1 week, it still feels like it was just yesterday that Vance Frankie Fanelis was killed. Simone Davis has the story.
The family of Frankie Fanelis is speaking out and looking for answers as to why the father of two was gunned down near his home last week. Otancia Clairville says June 1st was the worst day of her life when she found out that the father of her two children had been shot dead outside the home they shared. Clairville, who spoke Creole, says she remembers Fanelis as a loving father and the breadwinner in their household. And now that he's gone, she's left with the burden of having to provide for their children and raise two boys as a single mother.
Well, she's saying that that particular night when the news got to her, she felt as if that she had died.
What's even more heart-wrenching is that Fanelis' entire family resides in Haiti, and since he's been living in the Bahamas for 8 years, his family hasn't seen him. Clairville says his parents are taking his death the hardest because the first time they'll see their son in nearly a decade will be in a coffin.
Pour l'autre moun encore quitter Haïti, a vle di pour tant quitter Haïti, yo pa jamais nouvelle yo pense nouvelle la mort.
She's saying the entire family is taking it very hard. She feels as if she may be the strongest person at this time. When she make phone calls and calls, for instance, his mother, they attempt to talk, but then, it's like their hearts are ripping out. And she said that he has been here in the Bahamas for 8 years. And so for 8 years, his mother in Haiti hasn't seen him. And now she will have to see him in a coffin. And the most recent news that she got on her son is that he passed away.
Clairville says their oldest son, 2-year-old Steven, waits at the front door every day for his dad to return home. She says it's heartbreaking as a mother to know he'll never see his father again, and even harder to explain that to him. Fanelis' neighbors remember him as a very friendly person and a hardworking father.
Frankie was a quiet person, got along with everybody. Everybody he come in contact with, loved him for the person that he was, just a quiet person, family man. It's sad, to see how his life was taken, especially, leaving the 2 young boys. But through everything, you still have to give God thanks. But
President of Families of All Murder Victims, Candy Gibson, urges everyone living in the Bahamas to unite despite where they are from. She says it's important because crime has no nationality and can happen to anyone from anywhere.
Crime doesn't have a face. It could affect any nationality, and it goes back to our main objective, which is the invisible, silent victim left behind, which are the kids. And in this case, he has family members, and at the end of the day, we don't see the big picture here. The big pictures are the families that are hurt, that are left behind. Murder doesn't target the person that is on the ground after a knife or a gunshot. It's actually the remaining family members, and right now, he was the sole breadwinner of the family. He's no longer here, so what becomes of the kids, knowing that the mother doesn't work? So we plead on the Bahamas, man, let's unite for once. If we never unite before, let's unite.
Since Fanelis' death, Assistant Commissioner of Police Stephen Dean called on the community leaders, churches, and the wider public to assist with developing crime solutions and intervening with young men in particular for safer Bahamas. Reporting for NB12, I'm Simone Davis.